Hi, I'm Steve Nash and this is FutureProof, the series where we confront the extraordinary challenges facing the automotive industry today. We face change on an unprecedented scale, and without a healthy influx of new talent, our industry could simply cease to function. Throughout this series, I'll be interviewing people from across the industry, from senior leaders and experts to those just starting out. We cannot figure out what the future will be without speaking to those who will shape it. My goal is to show that in spite of the challenges we face, there's also great opportunity. Ultimately, I hope that the insights we gain will provide us with a better understanding of how we can genuinely future-proof the automotive industry. My guest today is Alun Parry. Now, Alan and I have a long history together, from meeting when he was a young, newly qualified apprentice to him now heading a multi-award-winning public affairs team at Suzuki GB. Alan is a great example of what can be achieved in the automotive industry with the right support and the desire to learn. And I'm proud to have played just a little part in that in Alan's career, and look forward to hearing more about his amazing journey. So Alan, welcome, and thanks for being here. It's really good to see you. So let's go right back. Do you remember when we first met?
I do. It was 40 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing because I don't think either of us are that old, are we? But
no, we left school at sort of 11. You know.
11, yeah, we were boy geniuses. That was back at Cheyne Motors,
In
the
Hammersmith.
BMW dealer, and you
Yes.
were then a newly qualified apprentice.
Yes.
Tell me, how did you get into that? How did you get into an apprenticeship? Did you have family or?
No family in the car industry at all. It's not even my immediate family or my wider family. And that my mum and dad were both teachers, and I always had a big passion for cars. And when I was 14 years old, I had my own car wash business, washing everyone's cars up and down the road.
Always something you can fall back on, Alan.
Well, yeah, nothing's changed really. And it must have been horrendously high water rates for my dad, but he never complained, because I used so much water. And then when I was just before I was 16, actually, I got a work experience position through my school, actually, and I went to the Mead School in Chertsey. And I had this opportunity to go and work for Tower of Egham, which is a BMW and Fiat and latterly Ferrari dealership. And I was going in on the BMW and Fiat work experience for 2 weeks, which I really enjoyed. And it was only about 3 or 4 miles from my house, and I really, really enjoyed it. And they offered me an apprenticeship literally the week afterwards, and I thought, wow, this is brilliant. I haven't even left school yet. Unfortunately, about a month later, there was a big economic downturn in 1980, from memory. And they wrote to me and said, "We're really sorry, Alan, but we can't honour your apprenticeship. We're very sorry, and we wish you luck for the future." And that was that. And I just couldn't believe it, because my dad and I were talking about it, and my dad said, "Oh, well, I wonder if you could do some volunteering or something for them." And as an unpaid trainee, which I approached them about. I remember cycling down on my bike to ask that question, and they just said, "Well, what a brilliant idea, but sorry, we just can't do that." So anyway, I started, going through all the local car dealerships in the area. My dad was a brilliant help. I'll never forget to this day. He took me everywhere. He took me to interviews. He'd help me write letters to people, applications, post them by hand.
That was the way back then.
It was
email.
the way. Yeah, no email. Post them by hand, and he took me everywhere, and I'm truly grateful for that. And then, literally, I got another interview through the careers office, working with a company a local company, aerospace engineering, doing instrument fitting for aircraft, which sounded interesting, to be honest. It was a proper apprenticeship. But at the last minute, as I said, I was very lucky. I was offered that position, and at the last minute, I said, "Nah, it's the car industry for me." And then, fortunately, about 2 weeks later, I got an interview with Cheyne Motors in Hammersmith, and they'd moved from Fulham. They had their car showroom, the dealer showroom in Putney. It was a small workshop in Fulham, and they were moving to a big new workshop in Hammersmith down there.
Which is where we first met. So for clarification, Cheyne Motors was London BMW dealer.
It was.
So that's where you completed your apprenticeship.
Yeah, I did.
And to be fair, as an organisation, I mean, obviously that's where we met. And that was one of the strongest things that they did, I remember. It employed a lot of apprentices.
Yes,
Because
definitely.
when I came there, I employed a lot more. I just
Yes.
thought it was a brilliant idea, and I
Yeah.
carried that with me later on. But
Yeah.
so we first met, you were sort of newly qualified, and at that time, I think one of the first interactions I remember thinking, Alan's a really good guy. Why do we pay him so much less than anybody else? You know, it was that classic once the boy, always the boy thing, wasn't
Absolutely,
it?
yeah.
Which is a big mistake that a lot of businesses make, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, they'll pay so much to bring somebody in,
Yes.
but they don't necessarily do the same for the people who are already there. But
No.
we put that right, didn't we?
Yes,
You know,
thanks to you, Steve. You recognised it very early on. And, I got moved up from essentially a semi-skilled salary to a fully skilled technician's salary. So,
which was thoroughly deserved because
Yeah.
you were already working on problem cars
Yes.
and things like that
Yes.
the manufacturer
That's right.
sent to us. And
That's right.
so then we moved from there to, I moved
Yes.
from there to BMW GB as it
Yes.
was then, BMW UK today. And I thought, actually, we've got a vacancy here
Yes.
that I know a certain person could fill, and
Yeah.
you came to work at BMW.
Yes, I did. Yeah, that was a fantastic opportunity again, and really started the ball rolling faster for me. I started there in 1988 as a technician in the press workshop. When I think you were service manager in the workshop then, then you moved upstairs, and we did a huge array of press cars and royalty cars and things like that. And
You would never have really known that at the time, would you? But that was your first encounter with the press department, wasn't it?
It was.
Yes.
Working
because there was lots of interaction with journalists,
Yes.
press launches, and
Yes.
so on.
Yes.
Before we jump on into your sort of into that very important part of your career, I mean, what would you say to somebody today looking to take an apprenticeship?
Make sure you give people an opportunity. I can make a cross reference to winding the clock on a little bit with young journalists.
Yeah.
Young journalists who are starting out, we must give them a chance, because if we don't give them a chance, they have no chance.
Yeah.
And I'm carrying on with that now. Working with Coventry University and things like and places like that to make sure younger people coming through, we give them opportunity, and that's the message I would give to an employer. Make sure you invest in young people.
The longer you're in the workplace, the more you see patterns repeating themselves. It's very
Yeah.
tempting, isn't it, at a time when it's economically a bit challenged.
Yes.
The costs of employment have gone up, minimum wages and so on. But apprentices, have and have always been the lifeblood of our industry.
Yes.
I mean, you're a really good example, but there are so many other really good examples. Some of the people you worked with
Yes.
who've gone on and done amazing things.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a job initially, but it's a career if you
Yes.
want it to be, and you take the
Certainly.
opportunities that fall to you, isn't it?
Certainly.
So I'm assuming it's a route you would recommend to somebody.
I'd absolutely recommend it. Yeah, the way the automotive industry is changing now, obviously, there's a huge emphasis on electric vehicles and future technologies. There's so much people can learn, and so much good they can put back in, I think.
You said earlier on that from a very young age you were enamoured with cars. I understand that
course,
completely.
yeah.
Do you think people still do have that same passion for cars, and do you think they will? I mean, when we're in a substantially electric future, do you think people will still have that kind of passion for cars?
I think the jury's still out on that, Steve, to be honest with you. The more we get into electric and perhaps hydrogen cars, powered cars like that, it's certainly a lot of enthusiasts about electric cars because of how powerful they are and how fast they are. Sometimes I feel they lack a little bit of soul. But that's probably me getting older.
Well, I often say to people, when people sort of say to me, talk about the good old days, and there's plenty to talk about with good old days. We've definitely experienced them. But I always say today is somebody else's good old days, isn't it? So
yes.
I guess what we were passionate about, we can't assume that other people won't be passionate about what comes along today, maybe for different reasons.
Yes.
Let's look back a bit at your career, because I think one of the things that I always drum into people is, in fact, it's hard even for people in the industry to recognise this. There's more than 200 jobs in automotive retail alone.
Yeah.
I mean, people think there's people who sell them, people who fix them, people who manage the people who do that, but they don't see all those other things that you could do.
No.
And as a young schoolboy, you know, enjoying cars, you know, lusting after a few cars and things, you'd never have known you could end up where you have.
No. I went from the workshop into the technical support desk, you know, show my age again, but before the ages of computers, and we were on the technical.
Well, we did
technical
have
phones.
screens.
We had
Those
screens.
green,
yeah, Space Invader sort of thing. But we were on the technical phones, and I did that for about just over 2 years. And then, as you mentioned, my involvement with the press office and the press cars, I started to get invited on the launches as one of the crew. You know, washing cars, fueling cars, making sure they were running right, and answering questions for journalists if they wanted to know something a bit more involved under the bonnet without ramming it down their throats, you know. And that's how I got into it. I joined the BMW GB press office in 1993 after having done quite a lot of press launches as the support crew, and really enjoyed those times, you know.
And you would have known already, you would have known quite a lot of journalists already.
Yes.
And I guess, I mean, journalists aren't a homogeneous group, are they? Some of them are quite technical and really know their nuts and bolts.
Yes.
Others less so.
Yeah, exactly.
Less so. But
exactly.
you would have touched on some big characters too.
Yeah, definitely.
The Jeremy Clarksons and people like that.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of stuff with Jeremy when he was just starting out. You know, still have a little bit of contact with him these days, but done a lot of stuff with the Top Gear programs over the years, and it's been really good.
And remind me, how did that transition happen? So you were in the technical area, but you know, supporting press launches and so on.
Yes.
When did the opportunity come up that you could?
The opportunity came up when one of the guys moved from the press office to go, and he was leaving the company essentially. Yeah. And no, actually, I think it was a lady. Actually, yeah, it was Lorna. Yeah, she was in the press office, and she was moving to another area. I think she just had a baby actually, and I took over from her. So I was doing the press car bookings and answering questions, doing specification sheets, things like that, and just generally
press liaison sort of
press
thing.
liaison, just generally being a sort of front desk person, really, because as I said to my colleague Jess, you know, who does the press fleet with me at Suzuki, you know, it's a hugely important role because you're literally the link pin between, you know, the manufacturer and the journalist of the car.
Well, like any job, it's sort of what you make of it, isn't it? Really. So what you made of it isn't necessarily what somebody else would have made of it.
True.
And you made yourself. I mean, you're too modest to say this, but you made yourself invaluable to the press team, didn't you? I mean,
maybe.
I think that's fair to say, isn't it? Really.
Well, I was always very enthusiastic about it. I really enjoyed my work there, and worked with some really, really good people at BMW. And people, when I left the company after a total of 20 years, people were saying, "Alan will never leave BMW. You cut his arm, and there'll be blue and white roundels coming out of his arm, you know, he'll never leave. He's a BMW person." And of course, my daughter had just been born, and I needed to make more progress and move to Toyota for a manager position, and then did technical PR for them.
But your move to Toyota was sort of facilitated by one of the senior people at BMW who'd gone to Toyota.
Yes, Scott,
and Alan's a really good guy. We could do with him here, which wouldn't have happened if you hadn't have made yourself as useful to the BMW press department.
Perhaps, yeah.
So it is about taking the opportunities and making them of them whatever you can, isn't it? Really,
exactly.
I mean, I think it's fair to say. I mean, I bet you would never have looked at your job description and gone, "Well, actually, it's not in here," would you?
No,
you know?
Precisely.
You know.
Yeah, but with Toyota, they you know, Scott had approached me a year before.
This was Scott Brownlee, who'd been at BMW and gone to Toyota.
Yes, and he approached me, and I wasn't ready to leave BMW, and I probably thought I may not. And then it came, the same opportunity for an interview came up a year later, and that time I was ready.
I mean, the point I was making about never looking at your job, I think one of the things I always say to people about automotive is there are various ways to get into automotive. You came in through the apprenticeship route.
Yeah.
There are other ways. There are normally certain things that people look for, maybe qualifications or whatever.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that in automotive, if basically you're somebody who makes stuff happen, you're likely to get on, aren't you?
I think so.
We look for people who just pick things up and run with them,
exactly.
rather than wait to be told
Precisely.
what to do. And that was very clearly what you had done at BMW and continue to do. The same when you went to Toyota.
Yes.
We'll come on to Suzuki in a second, but I mean, you were pretty much blue and white through and through.
Yes.
That's where you'd sort of grown up in the industry.
Yes.
But you made that change, and how was that, making a change brand to brand? I mean, both great brands.
Yeah, very different cultures.
Yeah.
Toyota, at the time were 8 or 9 million cars a year versus BMW, which was considerably fewer than that. And I went to Japan literally the week after I started, and I was blown away by the size of the company and how successful they've been. And at that time they're about 80 years old, the company then. Quite a diverse range of cars, and I remember BMW, of course, launch a lot of cars now every year. And I remember the Toyota one year they launched 6 different cars, and that was a lot of work, So it's a big project.
That's a sign of the times, isn't it? Because I remember, as you will, I mean, it was once said at BMW, we'll never launch more than one product in a calendar year. That was long before they had the breadth of range they have today. And of course, that wouldn't have even been feasible for a company like Toyota that had such a broad range, as well as Lexus, of course. And, it's... how long were you at Toyota?
8 years, exactly.
And the transition from there to Suzuki, how did that happen?
My predecessor at Suzuki was retiring. We'd met up at a couple of industry events, and he said, I'm thinking about retiring, Alan. I'd like to, put you forward for an interview if you're interested. And I said, and at the time I thought, well, not really sure. It's maybe 20% the size of Toyota, But for me, when I sat down and worked it out, it was a much bigger job of a smaller brand.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, let's do it, and it gave me
the opportunity, small C kind of thing.
Yeah, and it gave me the opportunity to move along quicker and have more responsibility, and perhaps Toyota, I thoroughly enjoyed working there, I really did. But Suzuki, I get it, even more autonomy, more chance to make decisions and make things happen.
It's interesting, isn't it, how you can take on the whole love of a completely different brand, can't you? Because it's extraordinary. I often think when you look around the industry, the number of people that when you go to any manufacturer, any brand, you'll find people who've been there forever.
Oh yeah,
absolutely forever. Yeah. Eat, sleep, and drink the brand.
Yes. And
sometimes people think that's odd that you can make that change for it, but it's not, is it? Because they all have their different.
Yes.
And Suzuki have, Suzuki have a great heritage.
Yes.
The other interesting thing in automotive, of course, is that so many of these brands are still ostensibly kind of family-owned, aren't they? I mean, you've still got the Toyota involvement in Toyota, the Quant family who own BMW, and of course, Suzuki's the same, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm always very proud when people ask me how... who owns Suzuki? I said, well, the Suzuki family, and Suzuki-san, Toshihiro Suzuki is the great grandson of the founder, and he's still running it, and that's remarkable, I think. That
was a significant step for you. I mean, so now you're kind of running your own show, so to speak.
Yes.
I mean, you're now the person, who's in the front line for Suzuki. It has to be said, you've been conspicuously successful. I know you're too modest to say that, but I mean, you're multi-award winning, aren't you? I mean, and for clarity, I mean, this is the journalists saying who they think the best press department are.
Yes.
Or public affairs is the right term, isn't it?
Yeah.
Rather than
press and public affairs. Yeah.
Press and public affairs. Yeah. More often than not, it's you and your team that have been voted the best.
Yeah.
And that's extraordinary, Alan. I mean, that's an amazing achievement.
Oh, thank you.
How do you? What do you put that down to? How do you make that happen?
Well, I think the way I see it is, you have to put yourself into the mind of a journalist as to what they want, what they need to do their job well. I think there's 52 car brands in the industry now. It's with the influx of the new Chinese companies
And going up.
And I always think to myself, what would that person need to do their job well so that they can stay with us and write about us? Yeah. And I see it quite a lot where you hear stories that people don't get back to people don't answer questions properly, or they say they can't help them, and they'll just go somewhere else. Why wouldn't they? So I've always made sure that we, myself and Jess, my press and PR manager, we always make sure we give people what we feel they need, and if they don't need it, we ask them what they do need, and then we help them again, and that ensures a good relationship and carries that relationship forward. So a lot of the people I was working with at BMW and Toyota, I'm still working with now, 30 years on. A lot of them
Same journalists, you mean?
Same journalists. A lot of them, have retired, of course. But the ones that are still going, people like the Daily Mail and the Daily Telegraph, and they're still going strong. And it's great to have this rapport where you can just pick up the phone to them, and somebody new into the industry, they couldn't do that.
How do you go about finding people? How do you know that you've got somebody who understands all those things you've just said about?
Yeah, well, it's a case of gently training and just talking. Jess and I, we talk all the time, and we're always thinking the same. And she's been with me nine years now, and doing remarkably well, and got a hugely popular.
Where did she come from? What was her background?
She was working as an assistant in an architecture company, I think, in London. And then she came to Suzuki, was working in e-commerce for a while. And then the job came up with me, and then she applied and got the job.
I mean, that begs an interesting question. I mean, it's pretty clear why you got into automotive. It's not really a lot different from me. I mean, loved cars and everything. But do you think you need to be a car enthusiast to get into the automotive industry?
I think so. Lots of people, as you touched on earlier, Steve, they don't live and breathe cars. I think it's not that common. It's not compulsory, if I'm honest. No, because you don't get that many people. I don't think they're very interested in the industry. But you don't have to be an out-and-out car enthusiast, but it certainly helps, and it's done me no harm. Well,
I mean, Jess would be a good example of somebody who came from a completely different field, but has presumably gained that enthusiasm from the role that she does with you.
She's gained it through me. Yeah, Jess is she likes cars, and we like to feel, but that really helps us with our communication, because we're really under the skin of what the company's doing. And what's good about Suzuki is as they're going to a smaller brand after Toyota, is if a journalist, say you're a journalist, you asked a very complex question which I didn't know the answer to, a technical question. With a big company like Toyota or other big companies, you'd have to go through a European office, you'd have to go to the parent company and come back. The answer will come, but it's slow. With Suzuki, you can just walk across to the MD and they'll just look at his phone and say, I think they might still be there, and he'll call them, and then you get your answer. Yeah. And I've experienced that with the MD's assistant a few times. Brilliant.
I think you said earlier on there are 52 brands in the market at the moment. 5 minutes ago it was 35, I seem to remember, and it's projected that by the end of 26, 27, it's going to be about 70 brands. Yes. Market's not getting any bigger. So, I mean, that's a challenge, but challenge always brings opportunity, I suppose. From a Suzuki point of view, how do you see things shaping up in that newly competitive marketplace?
Well, I think that we're very fortunate at Suzuki that we've got a hugely loyal and very proactive dealer network, and our ethos is still to for people to come in and see the car, learn about the car, rather than just looking at it online and then just buying it as like a commodity. That's not the way Suzuki works. We've always liked to give a personal touch to our sales and our after sales backup, which is why we've got such a good customer loyalty.
To be clear, Suzuki are one of the brands that has said quite clearly you're not going to go down the agency route.
Exactly.
You're staying with the traditional dealer model. And I know that I've met a lot of your dealers. I
Yes.
came to one of your dealer conferences, didn't I,
you did,
on one occasion, and to speak, and yeah, you've certainly got a great relationship with the
Yes.
dealers. But that's very much a fundamental for Suzuki
our brand,
is
yes.
to maintain that sort of very personal approach
Yes.
rather than a sort of stack them high and push them out the door kind of.
No, that's definitely not the way the way we roll. And as I said, we've got a lot of good customer loyalty, and we know the challenges. Not everyone's ready for an electric car even now, but the ones that are ready, we've got the answer through the Suzuki customers that are ready. Then we got the answer for them now, and we're really looking forward to demonstrating this car to them in literally 6 weeks' time.
This is the Vitara.
E-Vitara, yes.
E-Vitara.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's imminent.
It is imminent, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll be launching that in the UK, and we've already had a lot of interest in the car based on a video and some photographs, so it's good news.
That's really, really good. Looking at future talent in our industry, as we're both time-served people in the industry, we obviously have to look beyond the traditional places to find talent because, one, there's a lot of competition for talent, and two, we have a lot of vacancies. I think something like 23,000 vacancies across the industry.
Wow.
At the moment, which is a huge number, isn't it?
Yes.
How do you think we can appeal to people who haven't traditionally looked at automotive? I mean, we both know, we both grew up in an industry which was largely male dominated, and if I'm really blunt, largely white male dominated.
Yes.
50% of the population is female. You have a daughter yourself.
Yes.
I mean, how do you think what do you think we can do better to try and attract people to see automotive as a great career? Because you're a good example of someone who demonstrates it has great opportunities.
Yes, I think diversity is very, very important. You see a lot more women coming through into apprenticeships, training on electronics and things like that, and that's got to continue, and that's got to grow across all aspects of diversity. I think that's very, very important. But I think once people get under the skin of the automotive industry, and as you said, the amount of different opportunities there are within a company and within a large corporation, I think they tend to stick with it. You mentioned about sort of low staff turnover and things like that, and Suzuki is an example where we've got people who've been there. I've been there 18 years, and people there 25, and dealers as well. They've been 35, 40 years with the brand. So, I can only speak for Suzuki on that side, of course, but getting people in generally, I think it's just trying to make sure the company comes across as interesting as possible, and then just capture the imagination of those people that they can really do well.
It's fascinating, isn't it, that when you bring in young trainees and interns, we used to do that a lot at BMW, didn't we? We used to bring in quite a lot of graduate trainees every year, or undergrads. Almost without exception, they all wanted to work in marketing,
Yes.
which they couldn't all do, of course. Until they got there and they realised that actually I haven't drawn the short straw because I've been put into after sales, or I've been put into, because there were so many interesting jobs that they wouldn't know about, would they? I mean, they've all got a perception of what marketing is, and nothing wrong with marketing, of course. I mean, you need that, but you certainly don't need to be male, and you don't need to be anything particularly, any race, colour, creed, or whatever.
Absolutely not.
The opportunities are there, aren't they?
Absolutely not. And when people come to my company and their first few days, I help with some of the inductions for them, and always make sure that they get a good experience and a good understanding of what the company is about to set them off on a good path, and make sure they enjoy it as I have done.
It always amazed me when people would sort of say that person didn't stay very long. It's a good job we didn't invest any thing in them, and it's this has been credited to a lot of people, but I think it was Richard Branson who said, I'd rather train somebody and have them leave than not train them and have them stay. You know what I mean? And you know yourself, I mean, whoever's trained you, you are very loyal to.
Yes.
Even going back all those years when I actually dangled the carrot of coming to BMW GB to you, you didn't immediately, I mean, you said that all the way through your story, you didn't immediately jump from BMW to Toyota, you didn't immediately jump from Toyota to Suzuki, because you had that sort of innate loyalty to the organisation that has developed you.
But also, Steve, you mentioned about younger people on my side of the business now, which is in press relations, and it's great to see younger people coming through and and seeing their enthusiasm and the way they want to learn. And some of the younger people are coming through. They actually want to write about older cars, classic cars, and things like that, which is brilliant. You know, you wouldn't have seen that before. I think you'd have the traditional journalist route, and that's that. But now you've got so many opportunities for younger people to come into that side of the business if they want to.
I suppose in a way, Alan, it's often said we live in a world where everyone's a journalist today. You know, everyone's got a mobile phone. Everyone's, and so I guess they bring new skills. You see it with your own daughter.
Yes.
You know, I've got a couple of very young grandchildren now, and I'm amazed at their IT skills.
I know.
Even at 5 years old, it's incredible.
We always enjoy meeting people that have just joined our industry, and I do some work with the SMMT, the Society of Motor Manufacturing Traders, to, help. We're always looking to help bring new people in because they're our future, and if we don't give them a chance, they have no chance.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not so long ago that Suzuki won a brand award, wasn't it?
Yes.
A customer service
award.
Yes,
UK
for all brands, not just cars.
Yeah, that's right.
And I suppose that's part of that culture, isn't it?
Yes.
That sort of almost like a family thing.
Yes, definitely.
Suzuki are at this point. You're on the cusp of launching a lot of new product.
Yes.
Electrified, let's say.
Yes.
So it's electric and plug-in hybrid and what
yes,
have you.
Yeah.
Are there any specific challenges related to that, or how do you see that?
Suzuki has to put a global perspective on everything because we build 2 million cars and sell 2 million cars in India every year. Of the 3.2 million we build globally, 2 million of those are in India.
Where they're further back down the curve with electrification, obviously. Yeah.
So, but Suzuki Motor Corporation have put a very strong commitment to the UK and Europe to help them with their electric car introduction, which is great to see. Of course, we've got the ZEV mandate and all these other obstacles in our path. But our first electric car comes out in October, and then we've got another 4 through to 2030. So we've been criticised a little bit for being late to the party, but they've done it for good reasons.
It's not necessarily turned out to be a bad thing, has it, actually?
Not at all.
Because I think some who were a bit earlier to the party found they had the right product at the wrong time, perhaps. Before, there were no incentives there. I know something's been brought back, but there were no incentives there, and the customers were not flocking.
No, precisely.
To the dealerships to buy them at that point in time. So it's not always the best thing to be first to the party, is it?
And I think Suzuki have taken a very good view and stepped back from it and said, let's see how things develop. We're running a full hybrid range anyway, so we've got some very clean cars. We know where we've got to be because of the UK regulation and European regulation, and that time is right now for us.
As we've established, despite being in the industry sort of, dare I say, over 40 years.
45 years, yeah.
And still only being 50. Let's look forward sort of 10 or 15 years. What do you think your successor, how do you think their job will change compared to what your job is today?
I think communication is key. Again, I refer to my colleague Jess, but we're looking at how the media landscape is changing quite drastically now. And traditional media is not as big as it was. It's sad to say. And I've been really fighting to keep it together, with my colleagues over the years, and it'll always be there. Regional press and national press, of course, it'll always be there. It's very important. But there's other avenues now with YouTubers, influencers, TikTok, content providers, content creators, and we're just having to move around to anyone that we think will give us a good return. And it's good for us because we're meeting a lot of new people. And we're in the early stages, but I've been talking about this for 10 years. The industry's changing, and I feel now, being very close to it, that it's happening much more, particularly since COVID, and particularly in the last 2 years.
You've always been famous for, amongst those of us who know you, the wonderful cars that you have restored.
Oh, yes.
Collected and restored over the years. I've got to say, if anybody ever comes across a car with your name on the logbook, they should just jump at it and buy it. It'll be an A1 example, and I can think of some of the lovely things. But you've got a few. You've got a few right now.
Yes.
Do you have a dream car? Is there a car like money no object that you would?
Well, money no object. It would probably be maybe an older Porsche or something, but their sort of values are very, very prohibitive for me now. I was tempted with Ferrari for a while, but I don't think I'm in that league really, and it's the maintenance cost that would scare me, because they're cars I couldn't fix on my own at home. It's not good for the future value of it if you don't get it, serviced in the correct program. So I think really I'm very happy with my older German cars, and very, very pleased, very happy that I own those. Very lucky and fortunate that I own those.
You're a curator in a way, aren't you? I mean, you've looked after those for the next generation at some point.
Yeah, I hope so.
So what have you got right now? I've
still got a couple of old 1980s BMW Alpinas, a newer BMW Alpina, and a 1960s Mercedes, which belonged to my late best friend, who I bought it from his family, and it wasn't on my radar for many years, but I suddenly, it's got some thoughts.
It's a fabulous car, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a beautiful car, particularly with the way you've looked after it. Assuming you've I don't know, won the lottery or something, and you've bought that Porsche or whatever it is, and you're heading down the motorway, what would you be listening to? What's your favourite?
I like Mumford & Sons. I really enjoy Mumford & Sons. I think they're a fantastic group. So talented. Really enjoy listening to them. Very, very upbeat music. Great. And I wasn't really into sort of that kind of folk type music before, but I think Mumford & Sons are a sort of
got a bit of
huge
a different take on it.
Different take on it. But I thoroughly enjoy listening to them.
I think your story is inspirational, because you do show that, I mean, the old saying is, it's not where you start, it's where you finish, isn't it? And I mean, in all the years I've known you, whatever you've been doing, you've always been somebody who's done it extraordinarily well. So it's not surprising in my mind that you actually sort of found and created the opportunities you did. I mean, you had the foresight and the ambition to go and look for those opportunities, but I think to some extent you created them as well by being a go-to person, somebody that people would go, well, of course I want Alan in my team.
Yeah.
So, when I look back to our first meeting with you as a very young, newly qualified apprentice, good on you. You've done incredibly well.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us, Alan. It's been really, it's always nice to catch up, and it's been really good talking to you.
Thanks for the opportunity, Steve. It's been a pleasure.
That was a fascinating talk with Alun Parry. Alan is one of the great examples of what you can achieve with application, hard work, and just pursuing opportunities when they're there, showing people, making yourself invaluable. Being a go-to person. That is what I would say to anybody joining our industry. Yeah, there might be some hurdles you have to jump to get in, but once you're in, the sky's the limit. As long as you make yourself that person who is a go-to person that people want to have on their team.